When people walk away from an interaction with you, they rarely remember the exact words you used. They remember how you made them feel. It's easy to underestimate this. You might think that because you were polite on the surface, you left a good impression, but emotions work in deeper, invisible layers. Beneath all the smiles, nods, and polite exchanges, people are subconsciously registering whether they feel respected, heard, valued, or diminished, ignored, and dismissed. And if you consistently leave them feeling worse about themselves, even in subtle ways, it plants the seed of resentment. Imagine talking to someone who constantly corrects you, even if they're right. Technically, they're helping you be better, but emotionally, you feel belittled. Now imagine someone who dominates every conversation, making it about their experiences, their opinions, their struggles. You may smile and engage politely, but somewhere inside, a quiet sense of irritation begins to grow. It's the emotional residue that matters, not the factual correctness or the external politeness. Sometimes, it's not even about active harm. It's about emotional neglect. When you fail to make someone feel seen, heard, or important, you communicate without words that they don't matter much. You don't have to insult someone to make them feel small. Simply looking at your phone when they're talking, giving distracted nods, or failing to ask a simple follow-up question about something they care about can leave a sting. And most people won't confront you about this directly. They won't call you out. They'll just start avoiding you, disengaging, keeping their distance without explaining. Another part of this is energy. Every interaction has an emotional energy: light, heavy, encouraging, draining, empowering, belittling. You can say all the right things, but if your vibe is judgmental, impatient, bored, or arrogant, people pick it up. Human beings are wired to sense emotional undercurrents. We're constantly reading each other, even without being fully aware of it. A half second of eye rolling, a sigh when someone's speaking, a flat tone when they're excited. It all sends loud emotional signals that linger far longer than words. What's even trickier is that sometimes your intention doesn't matter. You might think you're giving someone tough love to help them grow. You might believe that being brutally honest shows you care. But if your truth-telling makes them feel ashamed, small, or embarrassed, they won't necessarily appreciate your honesty. They'll remember the sting, not the lesson. In the end, people don't judge you only by what you intended. They judge you by how you made them feel. And when people consistently feel bad around you, a wall goes up. It's not immediate, it's slow, almost invisible at first. A small distance here, a less enthusiastic response there. Invitations start to dry up, conversations become surface level. You become someone they just don't vibe with. And often, they can't even clearly articulate why. They just know they feel lighter without you around. That's the real danger. Emotional impressions are powerful, but they're also slippery and hard to fix once they're set. The good news is you can become more aware of this. You can start paying attention to emotional clues, body language, tone of voice, the energy of the conversation. Notice if people light up when you speak or if they seem to shrink. Ask yourself after interactions, not just, did I say the right thing, but how did I leave them feeling? Were they more confident, more energized, more understood? Or did they seem drained, dismissed, or uncomfortable? Building the habit of tuning into the emotional aftermath you leave behind can transform your relationships. Small changes make a big difference. Listening more than you talk, showing genuine curiosity, celebrating someone's excitement instead of topping it with your own story, offering validation before advice. These are not huge gestures, but they change how people feel around you. They build trust, warmth, and goodwill. At the end of the day, people don't stay connected to you because you impress them with your knowledge, your stories, or your wit. They stay because being around you feels good. They feel seen, valued, safe, and energized. And if you can master that, if you can leave people feeling better after every interaction, you won't have to worry about secret hate or silent resentment. Instead, you'll become someone they genuinely want to be around. Most people don't set out to be arrogant. Nobody wakes up thinking, today I'm going to be selfish. But that's exactly why hidden arrogance and subtle selfishness are so dangerous. They're sneaky. They live in the small ways you treat people, the little assumptions you make about your own importance compared to others. You may not even notice it happening, but others do. They feel it before they can even name it. Over time, it quietly corrodes relationships, building a layer of resentment that's hard to erase. Hidden arrogance isn't loud and obvious like someone bragging nonstop. It's the subtle belief that your ideas are a little smarter, your time a little more valuable, your problems a little bigger than everyone else's. It's the way you might cut people off mid-sentence because you think you already know what they're about to say. It's assuming someone else should accommodate your schedule, your mood, your preferences without you offering the same in return. On the surface, you might seem confident and composed. Underneath, there's a quiet self-importance that people pick up on instinctively. Subtle selfishness works the same way. It isn't about being blatantly greedy or rude. It's about the way conversations somehow keep circling back to you. It's the way you make your needs, your opinions, and your desires the center of attention without realizing it. You tell yourself you're just sharing or being enthusiastic, but if you rarely ask others about their lives or listen when they answer, it starts to look like you care more about being heard than hearing anyone else. People don't like feeling like background characters in your story. They want to feel like they matter too. What makes these traits so destructive is that they often come from a place of insecurity, not malice. Many times, hidden arrogance is a shield. If you convince yourself you're smarter, more talented, or more interesting, you don't have to deal with the fear of not being enough. Subtle selfishness can be the same, a desperate need to be validated, seen, and reassured. But the reason doesn't matter as much as the effect. Whether intentional or not, when people sense that you value yourself more than you value them, resentment starts to grow. And here's the thing, most people won't confront you about it. They won't sit you down and say, hey, I feel like you think you're better than me, or I feel like you don't actually care about what's going on in my life. They'll just begin to distance themselves. They'll avoid deep conversations. They'll become less available. They'll smile and nod. But the emotional bond between you weakens with every interaction. Eventually, you might notice that your relationships feel hollow or transactional, and you won't even be sure why. One of the clearest signs of hidden arrogance and selfishness is defensiveness. If someone gives you feedback, even gently, and your immediate instinct is to dismiss it, justify yourself, or explain why they misunderstood you, that's a red flag. True humility listens. True care asks, how did I make you feel? Instead of, how do I defend myself? If you find yourself constantly assuming you're the exception, that you're the most reasonable person in the room, or that other people's complaints are just oversensitive nonsense, it's worth asking whether hidden arrogance is at play. The good news is that once you see it, you can change it. You can start practicing curiosity over certainty. Ask people more questions, not to respond or to show your own knowledge, but just to understand them. Listen actively and deeply, without planning your next response while they're still talking. Share your experiences, but check yourself. Are you sharing to connect or to dominate the conversation? Are you assuming your time, your problems, your stories are more important than someone else's? Real connection is a two-way street. It's not about shrinking yourself, but about recognizing that everyone has a rich, complex inner world just as vivid and important as yours. When you start treating people like their stories matter just as much as yours, when you show that their struggles, victories, and feelings are important, you dissolve the hidden walls between you. You stop being the unintentional center of the universe and start being part of a shared world. In the end, nobody hates confidence. People are drawn to it, but they recoil from arrogance and selfishness, even when it's subtle. If you want deep, lasting connections, it's not enough to be impressive. You have to be genuinely interested in others, to value them, not just for what they can offer you, but for who they are. When you do that, you'll find that resentment fades, trust grows, and you become someone people are truly glad to have around. Emotional intelligence isn't just a buzzword thrown around in self-help books. It's the invisible force that shapes how people experience you. It's not about how smart you are with facts or how witty you are with your words. It's about how well you read the room, how deeply you pick up on other people's emotions, and how gracefully you manage your own. When you lack emotional intelligence, it doesn't matter how good your intentions are, you will end up hurting people, annoying them, or making them feel unseen. And they may never tell you why they started pulling away. At its core, emotional intelligence is about awareness, both self-awareness and awareness of others. When you're not tuned into yourself, you miss the signals you're sending out. Maybe you come across as cold when you think you're being neutral. Maybe you sound aggressive when you think you're just being firm. You don't realize the tension you're putting into the air because you're not watching how your energy lands. On the flip side, when you lack awareness of others, you miss the silent cues they give you. The hesitation before they speak, the forced smile, the slight change in body language. You plow forward in conversations without noticing when someone's interest is fading, when someone's feeling uncomfortable, or when someone really needs you to slow down and listen instead of rushing to respond. The problem with lacking emotional intelligence is that it makes people feel like they have to manage you instead of just being able to connect with you. They feel like they have to tiptoe around your moods or protect themselves from your reactions. When someone feels emotionally unsafe around you, even if they can't fully explain it, their walls go up. They won't argue with you. They won't offer feedback. They'll just stop being honest, stop being vulnerable, and eventually they'll start keeping their distance altogether. One common sign of low emotional intelligence is making everything about yourself, not out of arrogance, but out of blindness. Someone shares a painful story, and you immediately counter with a story of your own. Someone talks about being stressed, and you jump in with your own problems without giving them the space to finish theirs. You don't intend to hijack the conversation, but it feels to the other person like you don't really care, like you're just waiting for your turn to talk. When people don't feel heard, they feel dismissed. And that dismissal doesn't just vanish when the conversation ends, it lingers and shapes how they see you going forward. Another subtle but damaging form of emotional blindness is the inability to adapt your communication style to different situations. Not everyone responds well to the same approach. Some people need directness, others need gentleness. Some situations call for humor, others call for solemnity. If you treat every person and every situation exactly the same because that's just how you are, you're not being authentic. You're being insensitive. Flexibility isn't about faking who you are. It's about caring enough to meet people where they are. Even well-meaning people can stumble here. Maybe you think you're being honest and helpful when you give blunt feedback, but if the timing is off, if the delivery is harsh, if the person isn't ready to hear it, you're not helping, you're hurting. Lack of emotional intelligence blinds you to timing, tone, and readiness. And no matter how valid your message is, if the emotional delivery is wrong, people will reject not only what you said, but also you as the message. Emotional intelligence also shows up in how you handle your own emotions. If you're constantly letting anger, frustration, anxiety, or insecurity leak into your interactions, you become emotionally unpredictable. People like stability. They like knowing that the person they're dealing with won't blow up over small things or shut down the moment tension arises. If you can't manage your own emotional states, you become someone others have to tiptoe around. Nobody wants to live like that. So they drift away, sometimes without a single argument ever taking place. Building emotional intelligence isn't about being perfect. It's about practicing awareness. It's asking yourself, how might they be feeling right now? It's slowing down enough to really listen instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. It's noticing not just what people say, but how they say it, their tone, their body language, the pauses between their words. It's understanding that people will often tell you more with what they. It's learning to manage your own emotional impulses so that your mood doesn't spill out onto others who didn't deserve it. When you develop emotional intelligence, people feel safer around you. They feel seen, understood, and respected. You don't have to be perfect or always say the right thing. You just have to show you care enough to try. That small difference changes everything. Relationships deepen, trust builds, connection grows. But without emotional intelligence, even the smartest, funniest, most talented person will slowly find themselves isolated, wondering why people always seem to be slipping away. People listen to what you say, but they believe what you do. You can talk all day about your values, your intentions, and your dreams, but if your actions don't match your words, people won't trust you. Over time, they won't even really hear you anymore. They'll watch. They'll notice, and when they see the gap between who you say you are and who you really are, respect starts to quietly die. Indeed, one of the most important things is tough. One type of consistency between words and actions is one of the fastest ways to lose credibility, even if you never mean to deceive anyone. You might promise to be there for a friend, but then vanish the moment things get tough. You might claim to value honesty, but hide uncomfortable truths when it's inconvenient. You might talk about kindness and respect, but the way you treat servers, coworkers, or even strangers tells a different story. People catch these contradictions faster than you think. And even if they don't call you out to your face, a part of them shifts away from you the moment they see it. Nobody expects you to be perfect. Everyone slips up sometimes. But when the pattern becomes obvious, when people consistently experience a version of you that doesn't align with the version you present, that's when resentment and distrust start to form. They feel like they've been sold a product that doesn't work as advertised. They start wondering what else about you isn't real. And once that doubt creeps in, it's hard to come back from it. Sometimes the inconsistency is unintentional. You may not even realize how your actions are coming across. Maybe you think you're being supportive because you send a quick good luck text, but the person you care about needed more than that. They needed your presence, your time, your real attention. Maybe you believe you're a loyal friend, but you slip into gossip when they're not around because you want to fit in with another group. In your mind, you're still loyal, but in practice, your actions tell a different story. And for the people on the other side of it, the difference isn't small. It's everything. Other times, inconsistency happens because people want to be seen a certain way more than they want to live that way. It's easier to talk about being disciplined than to actually show up every day and do the work. It's easier to say you value kindness than to swallow your pride during an argument. Words are cheap, actions are expensive. And deep down, everyone knows this. That's why people watch what you do much more closely than they listen to what you say. One of the hardest truths is that inconsistency creates an emotional debt. Every time you say one thing and do another, you're taking a small emotional loan from the trust people have given you. You might not feel it immediately. The person might still smile, still act normal, still show up. But under the surface, something has been damaged. Trust, once fractured, doesn't heal easily with more words. It needs consistent, real action over time. Otherwise, the emotional debt eventually comes due, and often it comes due all at once, when the person decides they're done believing you. If you really want strong, lasting relationships, whether they're personal, professional, or even casual, you have to make your actions louder than your promises. You have to build a reputation for being someone people can count on. Someone who shows up when it's inconvenient. Someone who chooses integrity even when it's uncomfortable. You don't have to be flawless, you just have to be consistent. Small acts done reliably mean far more than grand statements made once and then forgotten. Self-awareness is key. Pay attention to the promises you make, even the small ones. If you say you'll call, call. If you say you'll help, show up. If you say you care, back it up with time, attention, and presence. If you make a mistake, because everyone does, own it immediately without excuses. People are far more forgiving of flaws than they are of fake apologies or broken promises brushed under the rug. The truth is, your consistency tells the real story about you. It's the proof of your character. It's the difference between being admired from a distance and being trusted up close. If you want real loyalty, real connection, real respect, it's not enough to say the right things. You have to live them. You have to be them, even when nobody's watching. In the end, trust isn't built by what you promise. It's built by what you consistently deliver. And when you align your actions with your words, you become someone people don't just listen to, you become someone they believe in.